Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're going back to some Bloodstrike. Hey, where you going? No. It's okay. It's cool. I think there's some reasons this is actually worth going into. I'll get into that in a second. Just before we do, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, what you can do is in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. And if you subscribe there, that'll give you access to everything I do from the Blood Force stuff. All the finished art that you can't get the scripts to on the finished channel. Plus the YouTube stuff before it goes out to YouTube and some Patreon exclusive content. So Bloodstrike, of course, is sort of a spin-off of a spin-off. This is sort of a more of a Brigade spin-off, I suppose. And yeah, a lot of the early 90s extreme books were just kind of throwaway shit where Rob had an idea and he rushed out some marketing for it to try and cash in on whatever hype he could generate. So really, Bloodstrike wasn't much more than a way to do a crossover for Brigade. But he did actually do something interesting in that for this little run of Bloodstrike issues, this is like 4 to 6, he got Keith Giffen to write it. So working within the framework of a resurrected superhero team that you could continually resurrect, you know, throw them out into the field. If they win, cool. If they get demolished, that's okay. You just shovel up the remains and bring them back and resurrect them again, and then you can debrief them and send them right back out again. It's, it's win-win. And not much was made of that in the first 3 issues, and not much, I think, was made of it after Keith Giffen's run. But he's going to do what he can to try and make it at least a little bit interesting here. So, he didn't have anything to do with the cover, unfortunately, because that is a bare-bones, crappy pinup kind of cover. I'm not shitting on Dan Fraga. He was very young at the time, and I don't think there was much he was capable of. This even feels like early Dan Fraga a little bit, because he did come up with some cool-looking drawings every once in a while. This ain't one of them. Particularly with, you get Deadlock. Yeah, I think that's it. Deadlock. His pose here, pretty bad. Also looks pretty tiny compared to everybody else here. It doesn't look like a full-size person. And you get Shogun in the back here, looking like a giant Cupid doll. The rest of it's kind of whatever. We're going to stand here and try to look cool. I'm trying to think if there's a single Bloodstrike issue that has a decent cover. I can't think of one offhand. Until you get to the plat-drawn covers. That's a little different. I think, well, maybe there's just one. So, Keith Giffen on this is going to do story and layouts. So in addition to a decent script for once, we're going to get some decent storytelling, at least theoretically. Dan Fraga is not doing the pencils on this. This is October of 93. I don't think he's doing Berserkers or Black Flag or anything like that. So I'm not sure why exactly he's not drawing this. He's, probably about as good as whoever Chris Alexander is. Oh, I was wrong about the script. Okay, the script is Eric Stevenson. Interesting. So probably this is more Keith Giffen doing layouts and giving general ideas to Eric Stevenson. All right. Oh, well. So we're going to start off with Cabot here taking a shower. And we can see right off the bat, the art isn't going to be fantastic. I'm not even remotely familiar with whoever Chris Alexander is. As far as I know, he didn't go on to become anybody. I could be wrong on that, of course. But this is this is a little bit sub-level Dan Fraga even. So it looks like he's washing off some blood from a recent battle. Notice his reflection in the mirror and has to go beat the shit out of that. And then rip the sink out of the wall and throw that through. I don't even feel like it's necessary to comment too much on the art. Nothing here looks like Rob Liefeld egregious, where it's like, man, why would you even think to draw it that way? It's just a not very good version of whatever these poses are supposed to be. So now we're going to cut to Shogun out of his suit. This is the first time we're going to see it, where he's doing some repairs and watching Night of the Living Dead. And for a splash, this isn't too bad. It's not something that really needs a splash, necessarily, but we get lots of not too bad looking tech in here, and I think this is down to Tim Townsend, who's the technical assistant on this one. But yeah, some decent tech. We see that Shogun gets a tiny chair in the middle of his outfit there. So Cabot wanders by, asks him why he's not doing what the other members of Bloodstrike are doing, which is going out in the town and pretending they're normal. He's like, nah, I don't do that shit. I'm dead. I'm just going to sit here at HQ and work on my suit and watch my movies that remind me how dead I am. And from there, we cut to Deadlock, who's out prowling on the streets. And he's going to eavesdrop on a conversation between a couple of thugs who are talking about a woman this guy hooked up with, who he took back to his place, and she declined until he knocked her around a little bit, and then she was digging it, apparently. So yeah, we don't have to worry too much about whatever's going to happen to these guys. Although we do get the unsettling shot of Deadlock licking his lips, which is not pleasant. All this stuff is reasonably competently drawn. Actually, I think it's better than the first couple of pages. It's like not quite ready for prime time. But, you know, give this guy a couple of years where he's cranking out pages. He might be decent. So we get the big splash as Deadlock leaps down on these two assholes that we're hoping something bad happens to. And we're gonna get that wish realized as he jumps on the dude who was knocking around the chick and immediately rips his spine out. And then looks like beats on his corpse for a while. And then chases down the other guy here. And he's screaming about how they ruined his kill. Like he'd been stalking that girl and he couldn't use what was left. Again, decent choice for a splash page. Not really super well executed, but, he gave it a go. And all of this stuff here, it all looks okay, I suppose. You can see how, the layouts are decent. You can see how somebody who was a bit more skilled could make this look pretty cool, theoretically. So, Deadlock chases the other dude down, tackles him through a window, immediately kind of pushes his head off, and talks about how these guys are going to be a sorry substitute for the girl, but his hunger isn't going to be denied, and starts drinking what comes out of the neck hole. And a little comedy shot here as the guys go, "You still got that gun behind the counter?" "Uh-huh." "You going to use it?" "Uh-huh. On myself, if you ask for a chaser." So we're already going kind of way beyond what Bloodstrike did before, which is basically just kind of typical superhero stuff with a slightly more violent edge. This is far more violent. Cutting back to headquarters where Tim Townsend is hard at work on this little computer terminal that Cabot's on. That doesn't look too bad at all. So Cabot is going to talk to Rome, which is the computer that Bloodstrike uses to teleport in and out of stuff. So it's also, like an AI. So Cabot's been requesting some data, and what he's doing is he's going to be comparing personality profiles for Deadlock here. From before he was dead, when he was a villain as a member of the Four, and after he died as a resurrected corpse in Bloodstrike. And you get the impression from the conversation he has with Rome, who's going to talk shit to him a fair bit, that this is something he does fairly often. This is something he's been puzzling over for a while. So from there, we're going to catch up with Foreplay, where she's shopping around at a pharmacy, trying to do the normal person thing, lamenting about how concealer doesn't really work on corpses. And all of a sudden, the pharmacy gets shook down by some armed assailants. That's a bit of an underrated shot, actually. You get up until here, the geography's kind of unknown. At least here, you get an idea of where everybody is. Yeah, this is all like... I'm always kind of curious about what kind of role Keith Giffen has in the layouts, whether he's just doing thumbnails or whether he's working on boards. And again, to what degree of detail. But storytelling here is all good for setting up a scene. So the robbers here, that's what we can call them, right? The robbers. Tell Foreplay to get on the floor. She doesn't comply. They all think that she's pregnant because she's wearing this giant overcoat. And she does, of course, have the 4 arms. And I guess she's just kind of crossing them over her stomach here. These guys try to act all tough, being like, "Hey, man, you ever aced a pregnant chick before?" And I guess that's enough reason for her to just blow these dudes away. So shoots this guy's guts out his back, and then just, yeah, like miniguns this guy down. Again, nothing too impressive with the art, but almost competent. And yeah, so she had like a couple of Tim Townsend guns under her shirt there. Again, decent choice for a splash page reveal. We've gotten like a splash page for a few members now. We like Deadlock got his own splash. Shogun did. Now Foreplay. I don't remember if the other two did, so I'm actually kind of interested to see how that goes going forward. And not a bad shot. You know, the clothes don't look great, and that's part of the problem here. But the shot of her with the secondary arms covered in blood, decent angle, that's all cool. Tells the shopkeeper, breech birth, which is a bit more than he can handle. And so, yeah, she's not going to be able to get home the regular way now, so she's going to have to start running down some back alleys. And just a casual Dutch angle down the alley. That's all right. Yeah, it looks like Chris Alexander is trying to keep up and having a bit of difficulty here and there. But, I mean, you know, he is putting in the work at least. So, now we're back to Cabot comparing the psychological profiles of Deadlock pre-Bloodstrike and Deadlock post-Bloodstrike. So, Deadlock post-Bloodstrike suffers from what they call similar psychological conditions as other born-again subjects. It's Project Born Again, the resurrection process. So, violent mood swings, suicidal urges, fits of depression, thrives on conflict with other project members, aberrant behavior in social settings, hostility towards authority figures. So that could describe any member of Project Born Again. That's pretty much Cabot there as well. Which would make you think that Bloodstrike Deadlock it was a pretty regular kind of superhero / villain kind of guy before being resurrected. However, pre-Bloodstrike Deadlock suffers from extreme homicidal tendencies and animalistic urges, violent and uncontrollable in all settings. Initial studies suggest the possibility of some form of schizophrenia. Study of subjects' victims indicates a predilection for women and suggests anomalous vampiric behavior. So that kind of guy shouldn't be turning into a guy like Cabot, basically, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to him. So he's going to have to keep a closer eye on Deadlock in the future. So from there, we're going to cut to Tag. We're not really told it's Tag, it's just a couple going back to this guy's apartment. The girl is way too drunk, and the dude is going to take advantage of the situation. So he gets her in the bedroom, where she hits him with her tag power, so he freezes, and then shoves him on the bed, where he's, you know, essentially a mannequin, and goes, "Don't worry, we're still going to go through with this, just I'm in control now, and once I take off my clothes, I'm a corpse, so you might have wanted to back out anyway." So we're seeing some kind of personality quirks, if you want to call them that, emerge. Tag, even after being killed, still wants to go out and get laid, but, you know, has kind of a fucked up head about it, and wants to go and kind of inflict it on some kind of nasty dudes. So that's what she's going to do. And while we didn't get a splash page for Tag, that is kind of a memorable shot of her taking off her dress and, yeah, again, being like half rotted. Well, she's completely a resurrected corpse, but, you know, she wears a lot of concealer. So the next day, they all kind of meet in whatever the break room is. Not a bad skyline shot, really. Like, it's simplistic. It's all just black with some flecks around it, but it works out. And they're going to engage in some kind of banter. Shogun kind of pokes Foreplay here, going hard labor, and smacks him with one of her arms from under the table. And Tag says how she had a lovely time, which is, Tag seems to be coming across as kind of creepy here, I gotta say. And, yeah, they're gonna keep going for a second, and then Cabot realizes, wait a minute, where's Deadlock? And when he realizes he's not there, goes, damn it, and rushes out of the room. It's interesting, with this kind of artwork, yeah, the plotting does make a big difference. Because I'd be expecting to see a lot of confused panel layouts, and just a lot of crossing the axes, and not really getting an idea of where we are, but no, we always see enough. So Cabot's going to go back out to Rome and tells you to teleport Deadlock back here on the double, no matter where he is. So she does. Deadlock appears. Cabot starts to chew him out. When I say I want everybody in here by 0600, I mean it. I'm getting sick and tired. And Deadlock cuts him off and goes, "Bloodstrike filth! I don't know who you think you're talking to or why you brought me here, but you picked the wrong boy to play, sucker." And I'm just going to assume going forward that his voice is like Booker T. Again, not a great execution for a splash, but we got like 4 or 5 splashes in that book. That's and none of them really felt out of place. So not bad there. Again, some of that Tim Townsend tech. You know, it's not to the point where it's like, holy shit, look at this stuff. It's just enough. Like, it just kind of fits in the background. All right, then we get some letters, including a lot of suggestions for a letters page title, such as Blood Talk. And they're like, we'll keep that in mind. Yeah. There's blood notes, blood columns, strike page, letters of blood, bloody news, blood pit, like, you know, okay. Nice tries. Bloodlines, a little better. Blood count, and blood, sweat, and cheers. That's not too bad. It's a bit much for a letters page title, but, you know, I like the way this guy's thinking, at least. And then we're going to come to the Knight. Remember the Knight? The first episode was not impressive. You know, it's a decent try by a dude who pretty obviously hasn't been working in comics. So this one, they're going to give him a bit more assistance by the looks of it. So Rob Liefeld's doing the plot. The pencils are by Chuck Jones. Mark Pacella's doing the layouts. That might be okay. It's Mark Pacella's finishes I have a lot of issue with. And Marlo Alquiza and Jonathan Sabal doing inks. That's not too bad. So yeah, this guy's getting some help anyway. So if we remember what happened in the last episode, well, we don't. Knight and his 2 buddies, I don't recall, had to fight a bunch of those sci-fi guys, and the buddies got killed. And then Knight was brought aboard something, and he's going to get sent back out with these 2 guys to back to where that battle happened. So basically, we're going to get a redo on the first fight, I guess, theoretically, with better characters. And they're going to try and do this one as more of a covert ops mission. So they're going to get some robes on. Is this him? Colors kind of fucked that up a little bit. And I assume they've all taken off their armor under there. Otherwise, this is just silly. So they're going to sneak back to the installation they were trying to invade the first time. I think that was what the deal is. There's only the one guard, and he's got a goofy fucking expression on his face. I think this is because one of them is telepathic. I think probably the girl. They do seem to have, like, they've each got some sort of specialty. So Rival here has this enhanced eye that he can survey the landscape with. So he picks out the one guard. She controls him telepathically to go open the door, which does alert whoever's in the base down below, but he's going to allow them to access, and then once they get in, he'll wipe them out then, I suppose. That's the plan. This is all okay. Mark Pacella's layouts, yeah, they're competent. Not outstanding, but not terrible either. And we get a fun little tangent here where whoever this guy is, it looks like he's wearing a screen printed coat. Like, you know, like in around like 89, 90 WWF, when the Ultimate Warrior had like the big long sleeveless coat that had his face printed on it. That kind of looks like what this guy's got here. I like to think that's the case. So they're going to run in. They're going to be a little weirded out by how big the place is and how little they seem to be running into guards. And this is the guy who let them in. He notes that he can't see them, but he can sense them. So they're wearing these things are like stealth cloaks. Now they do have their armor on underneath. Okay. And he's going to send some guards out to go and deal with them. I don't much like this layout here, but it's not the worst. It's just, it's a mirroring kind of thing. It's kind of simplistic. And Chuck Jones here. It is Chuck Jones too, right? Yeah, I remember that now. Okay. Maybe I'll call him Tex Avery going forward. Tex Avery carries it off fine. It's nothing special. Oh, troll, everybody. Okay, so that was Bloodstrike number 4. So like I said, we're not setting up really any kind of plot just yet. Keith Giffen has a lot of work to do before we get there. He's actually got to make some characters first. And I think this is the kind of thing he would do on things like Justice League or Legion or something. I'm not for sure. Where, it's important to establish the characters and then establish the situation. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that, but that was the impression I got. So what he did here was just give them a little bit of personality. Cabot, not a whole lot other than he's displayed a little bit of concern for his teammates, which we'd never really seen before in an extreme book. And, Shogun, quiet. Foreplay, I don't know, wants to be regular. Tag, kind of weird. Deadlock, really weird. It's not huge leaps or anything, but it's more than we had before. If you want to get invested in a team book, you need to have some kind of personalities to bounce off of each other. And so next issue, we're going to start with more of a plot as Bloodstrike meets Supreme. And that gets a lot more interesting. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon, and that'll give you access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff, all the finished pages, and access to all the previous comics, as well as these YouTube videos before they get released to YouTube, and some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions. But yeah, who expected Bloodstrike to be anything other than god-awful? Not me. So hopefully this develops a bit on what was kind of built here. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.